I honestly have no idea what I want to say. I've been thinking about this episode for days, maybe even weeks, as we get closer and closer to Father's Day, and I can't think of anything. There's a lot, and then I don't know. My mind is it's just drawing a blank when it comes to typing words into my laptop, onto my show notes template. I don't know what to say. So I turned on my recording and thought I would just start talking, and that's what I'm doing. If you've been listening to me for any amount of time, you know I don't put out, junky episodes. I'd rather not put out an episode than put out something with just a bunch of words just to make sure I get that episode in. That's not how I operate. That's not how I've been taught to be a podcaster by the podcasters who have come before me. The podcasters that I listen to on a regular basis who talk and teach about podcasting. This is year 9 of podcasting for me, and I still learn. I'm still learning about the podcasting arena and genre. But the one thing I will tell you is I never want to put out something that's just words just to create an episode. It's not fair to the listeners who've been listening to me, the new listeners, or those of you who have been listening since day one. I think it's working because now that I'm talking into this recording, I think I kind of know what I want to say. And it's probably been on my mind, but I didn't know how to verbalize, if that makes sense. This is going to be my first Father's Day without my father. And keep in mind, I'm a woman of a certain age. I'm in my 50s. So, I've had my father for all of these years. And so I'm thankful for that because there are people who didn't get to experience adult life with their fathers for one reason or another, for many different reasons. Fortunately for me, I got to experience life with my father into my 50s, and I'm thankful for that. But it doesn't make the fact that he's not here any easier. It just is what it is, but I still miss him. And the thing that I want people to understand, and I think those of you who have had your fathers with you in your life and they've been good fathers, is that we all know that there is no perfect human. I'm not trying to put my dad up on a pedestal or turn him into a saint or anything like that. My dad was a pastor. He had 5 children with his wife, my mom. They were married for over 50 years before my mom passed in 2019. And then my dad, of course, as many of you know, passed in September of 2023. So it's not even been a year yet. So I'm saying all of that to say that I believe, and I think this is part of the process as adults who have had parents actively in their lives, parents who raised them and cared for them. They did the best they could. They did the best they could. And I've had this conversation with my brother. We are the 2 oldest of the 5. And we talk about things like this from time to time. We just believe, and I really, really believe that because I heard a lot of people having conversations of where their parents were lacking and how, I've got to go to therapy because my parents raised me. And, you hear those things, but I believe, I'm not there in your situation, but I believe that most parents, and I'm hearing some really horrific stories lately about parents and the way they're treating their children. I heard a horrific story today. I will not repeat it here about a woman and how she allowed her daughter to be treated. So I know that there are horrific, horrific stories, but I think for the most part that most parents are doing the best and did the best that they could. And we believe that our parents did the best they could by us. They were immigrant parents. And for a lot of you, that'll put a whole bunch of pieces into place. They were immigrant parents. So the first 4 of us are immigrants as well, but my youngest sibling was born here in the United States. And so we were living in 2 worlds, as most immigrants know. You get it. We're living in the American world and we're living in the world of the country we immigrated from. And so they put a lot of trust into the system, let's say. And they did the best they could. They hustled like most immigrants. They came here to work for a better life. to give their children, their family a better life. And that's what they did. They did all of that to the best of their ability. And so when I talk about my father, I'm not trying to tell you that, oh, he was a saint. He was a pastor, and he was a good pastor. He knew, he went to school. He had a degree, his bachelor's in theology. It always makes me kind of laugh to myself when people ask me, oh, were you the first in your family to get a degree? No, it doesn't always work like that. No, my dad had a bachelor's degree in theology, and he was very wise when it came to things of the Bible. He was the what would Jesus do type of person. He wasn't pounding his hand on the desk and all of that stuff that we can sometimes see when it comes to religion. And I miss him immensely. I miss his wisdom immensely. Many times when I was doing my other podcast, my 25 episode set of the Not Just Another Religion and Politics podcast, I used to ask him questions about certain things to make sure I was going down the right track, because I wanted to make sure that my research was good and, I wasn't just giving my opinion about things. I definitely talked about how I felt about things, but I backed it up with what my research told me. And he was one of my research pieces. So very smart guy, very smart man. And like I said, I miss him. I'm trying my very best not to bawl my eyes out right now. I know a lot of you have already lost your dad or lost your parents. And so I know Mother's Day was tough. Mother's Day was really tough for me this year. It really was. And some years it's fine, even though my mom's gone, even since she's been gone. I made it through fine. I went to social, I posted things, and I thought I would do that this year for Mother's Day, and I didn't. I didn't want to be on social media. It was just hitting me a different kind of way this year, and maybe it's because my dad is now gone. So I'm still in the grieving process. Like I said, it's not even been a year, and I don't think you can put a time limit on grief anyway. It's one of my pet peeves when people talk about, oh, I'm still grieving or I'm not over it yet. That's not how that works. And for those who don't get that, you just really haven't really lost anyone yet. And I don't wish that on anybody, this type of grief. But it's, we're all going to die. And that's one thing he used to say all the time. He used to say that death is a part of life. It sounds glib, but it's true. And yet here we are, literally, I'm experiencing the fact that death is a part of life. And now my two favorite people on the planet are gone. And I was talking to someone the other day about the fact that in neither case, my mom or my dad, did I get to say goodbye. And I felt it was so unfair, because I've heard so many people talk about how their loved one died in their arms or they held their hand to the very end. And I cared for my parents for almost a decade combined. My mom passed 4 years before my dad. So if you combine it, it's 9 years. And I just felt like I should have been able to say goodbye. But someone told me the other day that they noticed that most caregivers tend to get to say goodbye. And I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's for the good. I don't know. Maybe it is. That's the only thing I can think. But in neither case did I get to say goodbye. But there's nothing I can do about that now. They're both gone. I pray that they're together. I want to live my best, most relevant and joyful life now that they're gone, now that my caregiving days are over. Some of you know that I just got my CNA certificate. I just passed the exam. I took the class a year ago, but my dad continued to get sick, more and more sick. And so I kind of had to put the exam on hold and the practice on hold. And so I just took the exam in May, this month, and a week or so before my 1 year of having signed up for the class and taken the class. So I now have my CNA certificate, and I literally just got my certificate in the mail. CNA is Certified Nursing Assistant, for those who don't know. And so now I'm looking for jobs outside of the home, because I've been working work from home positions to care for my parents the last few years. And so, yes, when you're a caregiver, you kind of put a lot of things on hold and you pray you can recoup. It just depends, right? So I guess this is my time of recouping the time. And I think there's a verse about that in the Bible too, isn't there? So I'm recouping my time. I'm now looking for a certified nursing assistant position. And there are other things that I'll be doing, but I'll talk about that later, one thing at a time. But I just wanted to stop by. I hope the way I talked about my dad doesn't sound negative, because that's not my intent. I think he was the best dad a person could have. He did the best he could, and he did the best he could by my mom and by us. And I think as he got older, and I think this happens to everybody, as we get older, our minds, I don't know, they mature, for lack of a better term. So I think the way he probably thought about things in my younger years changed as he got older. And I got to see this with my mom too. I got to see her become a stronger person, a more intent person, all of the things. So I guess the point I was making earlier is sometimes we have to recall, and I think this will help for those of us or those who feel like they were shortchanged by their parents and now they're in therapy and, all of the things that people talk about. I think we have to come to the conclusion that our parents did the best that they could with the knowledge that they had, then keep it moving, If you have to go to therapy, you go to therapy. I'm a big proponent of therapy. I think we should go. I've been. Many of you know that I've been. After I lost my mom, I went after I lost my dad. And so therapy is good. I'm going to sign up and start going back again. I went to grief share after I lost my mom. I went to grief share after I lost my dad. I think it's good to do these things to help you with your mental health and all of that. But I think it's really important for us to take into account, especially as adult children, that our parents were doing the best they could. They were just doing the best they could. I think that helps immensely. At least it helps me to know that, okay, they did their part. They're gone. Now it's time for me to move on. And yes, I'm grieving them. Yes, I miss them. Yes, I miss their wisdom. I miss their presence. I miss my mom's laughter and her soprano singing. My dad used to play the piano. I miss him playing the piano every once in a while, and my mom trying. She was always taking piano lessons. But, just him playing the piano, he used to sing. So I come from a singing family. My mom's people sing. They all play instruments. I come from a musical family. And so I think as dynamics change, now that they're gone, and now my siblings and I are the older ones now, dynamics are changing, and we have to be about doing the best we can with the rest of our lives once our parents are gone, even as we grieve and we miss them. And we wish sometimes we could pick up the phone and talk to them. I used to call my mom every afternoon at 3, my 3 o'clock break, to see how she was doing. I used to visit my dad every day. I eventually had to put him in a nursing home, something I had sworn I would never do. And I didn't have to do that with my mom. She had to go to rehab a couple times, but she died at home. Unfortunately, my dad, he was in a nursing home the last 4 months of his life, and he didn't like it at all. And of course, that makes me feel guilty. Sometimes I feel so badly that, that's how things ended, but I was doing the best I could. I did the best I could by both of them. If you know a caregiver if you have a caregiver in your life, if you know of someone who is, and you can help them, please do. Please do. It's hard. It's hard mentally, emotionally, physically. The reason my dad ended up in a nursing home, 6'3", 200-pound man, every time he fell, because he had started falling, I had to call 911. I couldn't lift him. I had thrown my back out a couple times trying, but I had to end up calling 911. And the last night he was in his house, he had fallen twice. And on the second fall, I thought maybe it was neurological, and he never saw his house again. He ended up in the nursing home. And I know I'm kind of going down a journey I didn't expect to go with this, but I think if you know a caregiver, please see what you can do to help. Go pick up their curbside groceries, cook a meal for them, run an errand, pay a doctor bill copay so they can go to the doctors and get themselves checked out, because they're not doing it probably because they're caring for the person, typically the parents that they're caring for, and their health care is on hold. And you're like, how could you do that? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to yourself? You have to take care of yourself. I heard all of that. Easier said than done. That's because as much as I love myself, because I love me, I do, but I loved my parents and I wanted them to be properly taken care of. And dealing with the healthcare system is interesting at the very least. And as they get sicker and older, then you're sleeping with one eye shut and one eye open. So if you know someone who is a caregiver, please look out for them, check in with them. Don't look the other way. Don't look the other way. Because once the people they care for are gone, then that's their time to go do what they need to do. And then you may feel like, oh, well, they're not even paying any attention to us. Oh, no, that's not the point. The point is now it's my time because I did what I had to do. Now it's my time to go and get some mental and physical and spiritual and emotional rest. And that's actually what I'm doing, by the way. And so just if you have a caregiver in your life, please look in on them, check in on them. If your parents are still with you, give them a hug. If you are at odds, try to see what you can do to fix things. You don't have to have a relationship, especially if, anyway, you know what I mean. It just, you know the situation, but just know that once they're gone, and do with that information what you will. But I think I've said enough. I've said enough. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day to the men who are not fathers. A lot of you are helping somebody in some way, even if that person is not your biological child. A lot of people are just watching how you are dealing with the fact that you're not a father. You're contributing to society in some way or the other. I know you are. And I just want you to know that you can, and I believe you are, living your best life right now, the best that you can do with the life that you've been given. Your most joyful and relevant and fulfilled life, because we can all do that. Whether we got to have the children or not, we can still do that. And you're still valued. You are valued as a man, as a leader in your society, in your family. Never forget that. Just do with it the best that you can. And just know that even if you hear negativity every once in a while, it's from people who could never do what you're doing. They couldn't do it. They wouldn't be able to handle it. So just know that you're valued. Happy Father's Day, no matter your status as a father or not. There are a number of episodes in the show notes that I have plugged out of the library of interviews I've done over the years with childless, not by choice men. You know that my most recent interview was with Mr. Sheridan Voisey. That was a great interview. I enjoyed it so much. Got a lot of good feedback on that one. Episode 143, The Things Men Talk About, my conversation with Dr. Robin Hadley. Episode 130, about Father's Day and childlessness. Episode 72, another episode with Dr. Robin Hadley. I think I've had him on a couple of times, at least 2 times. I have another episode here. This is the one. Downriver Nomad, my conversation with Rob Hutchings. That was a great episode as well. So be sure to look at the links in the show notes for the different episodes of conversations that I've had with childless, not by choice men. And I hope that if you're a woman who's listening who has a family member, a male family member who's not ever listened to the podcast, tell them about the podcast. Tell them about these particular episodes. Have them listen. Have them listen. You can subscribe or follow. I think it's called follow now on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Pandora, or any of the podcast player apps. My understanding is that Google Podcast is going away. It's fading away, fading into the sunset, and should be gone by August. Summer. Let me say summer. I don't know if it's August. I don't know what August is in my head, but it's summer is what I'm hearing, but I'll keep you all posted. I also got a note from someone. I think I may have put that in another episode template, but someone reached out to me and asked a question in Spotify. But Spotify, and I reached out to them like it was in the middle of the night, and I reached out to their tech support to ask them, and they literally told me that there's no way for me to respond to an individual query in Spotify. I don't know why. So for the person who reached out to me in Spotify, and I may have put a response in one of my show notes that I don't have in front of me right now because it just occurred to me that I never responded because I can't. there's no way for me to respond to you on Spotify. If you want, please feel free to email me at Civilla@CivillaMorgan.com. That's Civilla@CivillaMorgan.com. Inbox me at Joy and Relevance on Instagram or Facebook, Civilla Morgan. But there's no way for me to respond on Spotify. I hope that helps. And if I find the actual question and the answer, I feel like I put it in another template. If I find it, I will respond again. But in the meantime, like I said, email me, Civilla@CivillaMorgan.com, and give me the 24 to 48 hours to respond, and I will do so. Okay, hope that helps. Thanks for listening. I hope this was helpful. If you need to reach me, my contact information is what I've just mentioned, but it's also in the show notes. If you want to contribute on a monthly basis, go to Patreon. If you want to contribute once in a while, go to PayPal, booksbycivillamorgan@gmail.com, and PayPal. If you have questions about that, of course, email me and I'll respond. But every bit helps. Every penny helps to pay everybody that needs to be paid on a monthly basis. You know the drill. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I will answer. Thanks again for tuning in, for listening. I hope I wasn't just talking. I hope it helped. I hope it was helpful, and I will talk to you later. Have a great one. Bye.